Thank you everyone for joining us in this event. We've picked this year sustainability and net zero in the space sector as our topic to talk around. As many of you are aware, a couple of weeks ago there was a seminar or symposium in the UK that talked about these things, and we've seen, I guess, gathering press coverage as well, some of that quite negative at the moment around space tourism, for example. So we recognise it's a very important topic for us to be talking about, and we want to make sure that as educators, we understand the issues and understand how we can start to bring this subject into our teaching more. So it's great to have a wide range of views and opinions that we can talk about here and learn from. So please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat whilst we are just going through the preliminaries. There may be a few of you here who haven't been on one of our events before or haven't previously engaged with the Space Universities Network. So just a very brief couple of slides on what is SUN. So we've now got, I think, around 93, 94 members across 39 UK higher education institutes. And what this network is designed here is really to support those people working in higher education to learn from good practice and to make sure that we are contributing to the goal of providing a skilled workforce into the space sector. So that's kind of the overall remit of what SUN is trying to achieve. And we have a website, and this kind of is a useful place where we try and gather as much of the information that we create and collect, and particularly for the people in higher education, we have a resources bank. So again, for those of you who are members, it's just a reminder that we have all these great resources here for you to access. So just a few notes is obviously I've already mentioned, but yeah, if you probably, whilst we're in the presentations, then it's worth having your, obviously have your microphone off, webcams as well, probably just to save on bandwidth. But when we get into the kind of the panel discussions, the small group discussions that we're going to have, then if you're able to, then please do turn your camera on, because it's nice to interact with real faces. Clearly, in a virtual event like this, if there's an emergency in your local area, do whatever you need to do according to your local regulations. As interesting as this event will be, it shouldn't override the need to act appropriately in an emergency. And whilst we are going through the sessions on Teams, then the way to kind of raise your hand is under the reactions button if you're on the desktop client, or there's the same option under the 3 dots menu if you're on the mobile client. But equally, if you want to just directly type your question into the chat, that's also fine. To briefly introduce what we're going to cover in this afternoon's workshop then, so obviously we're just covering the welcome at the moment, and then we've got Dr. Mamatha Maheshwapa from UK Space Agency, who's going to kind of introduce the overall topic. So we're very pleased to have Mamatha here today. Then we're going to go into the teaching side in terms of some of our members have prepared short presentations around how they may be already teach sustainability within their modules. So it's for us to learn from and to discuss those things that are already happening and how we might use those in our own teaching, and it might trigger other ideas that we want to talk about. So we'll have those presentations, and then we'll have some small group discussions just to carry on those conversations. Then we have a break, and then we get into the industry part. So we've got some speakers from industry who can bring their perspective of how they're working with the sustainability agenda. So again, it may prompt us to think about things that we can bring into our teaching. It's kind of a useful education exercise for ourselves to learn about what is happening, so we can talk about those current topics within our teaching. And after that, we'll have a panel discussion. So obviously, I'm sure there'll be lots of interesting questions that are raised by those talks. So we'll raise those during the panel discussion. We have our usual 2-minute pitches. So that is, if anybody has an idea they want to promote, if they're looking for collaborations, then we have this slot for people to raise those things. We've got a few people who've already announced their interest. But again, if you want to, just have a quick 2-minute mention of a topic that you want to raise, then do let us know. And I can point out at the bottom, we've got this Padlet running. So one of the ways you can raise your interest in having a 2-minute pitch is to add it to the Padlet there, or again, pop it in the chat. And we've got Charlie on the call, who is our Sun coordinator, who will keep track of these things. So when we get to that point, we can make sure we include anyone who's interested too. Also, at this point, I would just like to recognise that we are funded by the UK Space Agency, so we get a small amount of funding that pays for our coordinator and our website, and also recognise the University of Bristol, who kind of hosts the network overall, with which Lucy is supporting us in keeping this network up and running. And it's interesting to note, people may not realise, but we've already been going 7 years. So 7 years ago was our inaugural meeting of trying to get this thing off the ground. So it's great that we're still here after 7 years and hopefully still providing things of benefit to our members. So hopefully this workshop will just be another milestone in that journey. So that's everything that I wanted to introduce. So I can now hand over to Dr. Mamatha, and over to you. Thank you.